Hey, friends. Okay, we've been singing for a minute. I want everyone to raise their hand as high as they can. Okay, now go a little bit higher. Wow, you can put your hand down. Notice that whenever I said raise your hand as high as you can, everyone was able to go pretty high. But whenever I said go a little bit higher, everyone in this room was able to go just a little bit higher. That is what we are going to learn how to do with our communication today, to take our skills that are already pretty high and go just a little bit higher than before. My name is Amber Vanderburg. Hello, nice to be with you all. As you can tell by my name, I am of Dutch heritage. As you can probably tell by my accent, I am American. I am the founder of learning and development organization called the Pathways Group. We've actually helped more than 1 million learners in more than 75 countries learn how to do things like leadership development, communication, and such. And one of our most popular topics is how to communicate technical jargon to non-technical audiences. And in fact, I was working with a company a few years ago in Helsinki, and I had an opportunity to go to Lapland, Finland. And I entered into a cross-country ski half marathon through the Arctic Circle. The challenge was I had never actually cross-country skied before, but I knew how to cross-country run, and I had downhill skied, and I figured I had about 40 kilometers to figure it out. I just had to discover which tools in my athletic toolbox that I needed to apply to this scenario. See, I had seen cross-country skiing on television, and I wanted to join in the fun. It looked like a blast, clearly. And so I began the race, and I quickly found what skills would be beneficial and some skills that I thought were necessary that would not be as beneficial in this scenario. And I am proud to say that in true Finnish fashion, I finished the race. In the same way, today we're going to look at our not athletic toolbox, but our communication toolbox, and see what tools, what skills, what muscles we can use to apply in communicating technical jargon to our non-technical audiences. And same as athletic muscles, communication is a muscle and it is a skill. The more that we practice, the stronger we will become. And we have a few opportunities in problem solving and collaboration and in our presentations to really practice these muscles. These are going to be the 3 main situations where we will have an opportunity to communicate with our non-technical audiences. So, first question we must ask in either of these 3 scenarios is, who is my audience? Who am I speaking to? I can discover who my audience is first by talking to the people, right? Asking some powerful questions, making some observations, and if I have time, depending on the situation, I may do some research. The types of questions that I may ask, we are going to write down a few questions in just a moment. So this is me preparing you. You need to start thinking of questions that I'm going to have you write down on your phone in just a moment. I want you to think, what are the types of questions that I ask to better understand who my audience is, right? What types of questions should I ask to better understand what's in it for me, right? Why am I included in this conversation? How is this beneficial to them? I've talked to several of you already, and you have some questions that you already default to, right? There might be some questions of what is the organizational setup, right? Who is the decision maker? Who do I need to talk to? I might be asking questions about the personality of the team, the culture of the team. I may be asking questions about the targets and the goals. What does success look like in my working relationship? Now, in reality, I'm sure with each of these topics, we can think of 25 different versions to ask these questions. In application, we're only going to have about 2 or 3. Okay. Bless you. Gesundheit. See, that's my German. We're only going to have about 2 to 3 to ask. And so I want us to take just a moment to write down here we'll write down about 3 of our favorite questions that we ask to better understand our audience. Maybe you default to more of a goals related, more of what's in it for you, more what's the personality, what's the working dynamic here. I'm going to give you just a moment to write those down. We're going to share. So I'm going to give you literally 60 seconds. Ready? Are we ready? Set, go. Write down what are some of your favorite questions to better understand your audience. Think about your working relationships, especially in problem solving, collaboration, presentations. We are going to share these in just a minute. Halfway there. You have about 15 seconds left. Yeah, you get homework on this last session. Seeing people vigorously writing it down. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I want you to, I told you you're going to stand up. This is the only time we're going to stand up for this session. I want you to stand up or talk to someone next to you and share some of your favorite questions. If you didn't write them down, then you can just verbally share them. What are some of your favorite questions that you have, that you ask your team or that you ask your audience? Just a moment. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay. I heard some great conversation. I heard some good questions. I encourage you, because I know I cut this short, this is great conversation to continue after this session. Did anyone hear a spectacular question they want to shout out? You know, oh, that was just, took my breath away. They were all, okay, let's hear it. Very memorable. We'll say it again. How are you doing? There you go. Yeah, start off with that question. Yes. Yes. One more, yeah. What is your favorite type of cheese? Yes. If you were a cheese, what type of cheese? Yeah, what's your favorite type of cheese? Cheesy. Yes, Mateo. What is your favorite learning style? Yeah. What am I going to? Yes. Yes. Now, depending on, fantastic, these are great questions. Depending on if I'm doing a presentation, problem solving, or collaboration, I may ask slightly different questions. Taking a moment to prepare which questions I'm going to ask can set me up for better success. Right? Because again, you're only going to get a couple of questions, 2 to 3, before we move forward. So we want to make sure that our time is spent wisely. Now, a couple of things that I didn't put up on here to consider that I want to address now is your technological baseline of your technical audience. Right? So you have to keep in mind, I have family members that are very impressed that I have a 3D print of a save button. It's a floppy disk. We are in a workplace that has both digital immigrants and digital natives. Right? I remember a time whenever we did not have a computer in my home. Right? I remember a time when we did not have cell phones. I had to immigrate to the world of technology that is today. There are people in our workplace, there are people in our family that were born into this. Right? They were digital natives. And so we have this earlier exposure to technology. Now, I want to be careful of generational bias whenever we are keeping this in mind. Right? We were working with one company. I'll share a quick story. We were working with one company and doing online learning. Now, in this company, the majority of the people that were of a younger generation in this organization were out on the field working on the pipeline. They had an earlier exposure to technology, but did not always use the program that we were using. Right? So their everyday technological usage was lower. Now, in this company, the majority of the people in this company that were of an older generation, they were in the office using that technology every day. And so what did this mean? We had to assess, we'll go back here, we had to assess not only technological exposure, also technological usage whenever we were assessing where our baseline of learning was. Now, why is it important that we look at our technological baseline? This is going to help determine where we are in using our technological jargon and as we are bringing people forward. I'll share you a very quick story. This is not about the snow, this is about the ocean. So this is several years ago. I was scuba diving for the first time. I did decide to get a guide on this. I did not do that spontaneously. And so I went with the master diver. It was myself, master diver, and then there was another person who had never scuba dived before. The master diver had us walk in the water and showed us how to use the mask and the tank and some basic scuba knowledge before we got on the boat and we drove out to the dive site. Your typical training. It was at this point that we realized that the master diver forgot to ask one very important baseline question. Anyone know what that question is? Can you swim? Can you swim? The other individual did not know how to swim. They were stuck on the boat the rest of the day. The rest of the group went out swimming. We laugh at this story, but how often do we come in and we go through all of the jargon of you do this, 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 this? We haven't asked that baseline question. If I'm putting together that training, I need to have that question prepared. It may be a couple of questions to help assess, am I here, am I here, am I here? There's not a wrong answer, it's knowing where you are so you can better determine where you're going, right? So this is where I get questions about jargon. Jargon is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be very, very useful. Jargon is a shortcut of communication. It helps us to quicken our messaging. Imagine if we had a doctor that had to explain medical jargon to his support staff during a surgery. It would not be as successful, right? Jargon can be powerful when understood by everybody in the group. The challenge is whenever not everybody understands these words. That's where we can have that confusion. This is where some may feel like they are worlds apart. You might see their eyes begin to glaze over, and some may feel like it's an ego. I have seen some people may use jargon to establish credibility. In fact, I've been told that you need to use bigger words to establish your credibility. If your team, if the person you are communicating with does not understand what you're saying, this is what they're going to hear, or they're going to tune you out. The success of our communication is measured by if there is clear understanding by both parties so that we can move forward. So how do we take these complex ideas and clarify? I told you we're going to look into our communication toolbox. Let's look at some ways that we can clarify within collaboration, presentations, and problem solving. Let's look at problem solving first. One tool we can use is comparisons and stories. I'll give a couple of examples. We were with a team that, a DevSecOps team, and they wanted to put in some measures to combat against a DDoS attack. Problem was, nobody knew what that was in the business unit, right? Amber, we're trying to explain, we don't know what this is. This is what we did. This was not helpful to the business team. And so instead, we told a story. We said, do you remember a few years ago when this thing called the COVID-19 pandemic happened? And there was a massive rush on toilet paper. And the demand was so high that it impacted the operations. This enacted a sense of urgency. It was a clear, relatable story. I'll give another example. This is a very exciting day for me because this is my first international conference that I have a family member who has traveled from the United States to come and watch. My younger sister is here because she is the younger Vanderburg. We call her Minivan. So everyone say, hi, Minivan. So Minivan, a few years ago, was having some trouble with her phone. And she had done several things to try and troubleshoot. She had tried to clear some stuff out, and it just wasn't working. And so she went to the phone store and said, how do I fix my phone? I want you to listen to the way that this happened. So the person at the phone store first asked a baseline question. He said, did you ever burn CDs growing up? If you didn't burn CDs, come talk to me later, we'll talk about it. It's not this. She said yes. And he said, do you remember how if there was a scratch on the initial disk, if you tried to make a copy, that defect would transfer into the next disk? Some of you are shaking your head, nodding your heads, yes. She said yes. He said, that is what is happening to your phone. That was a 3-sentence story that I just told. In 3 sentences, clarifying question, do you remember this? This is what's happening here. Very short comparison. And then the recommendation was, you need to get a new phone. Now imagine how this could have gone. He could have simply said, you need to get a new phone, that's broken. She could have said, felt unheard, maybe gone to go talk to someone else, right? This could have gone different ways. He could have gone through the long explanation of everything that was wrong with the phone. Instead, he used a 3-sentence story to help build that comparison. And Minivan, what happened? Bought a new phone. And you knew why. Exactly. So the framework for this great analogy is we're going to have a relatable experience and a relatable action, right? A relatable outcome. And then we can make that comparison, right? Here's a similar experience, a similar outcome. And then I put a conclusion, right? So we're going to bring this all together. So this is nice. We're going to talk about how to explain to a non-technical audience, and I have a non-technical person here. I wanted to invite my non-technical audience to come up here on stage. Let's give her a round of applause. And now I am looking for a brave volunteer to help in 5 to 7 sentences choose just one, not all 5. I wanted to give you some options here. Choose one of the words on the board and give a story or analogy of what this may be. Is there anyone brave enough to choose? You could choose a different word if you want. Of what this might look like. All right, let's hear it.
So five sentences on...
Yeah, come on up. Yeah, we have a mic right here.
So, 5 sentences on CI/CD. Number 1, it stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. And these guys don't know what it actually means. But basically, it means that when you develop software, you try to do it in small steps, so that when it breaks, you don't need to fix a lot. And you try to get it into...
You can help.
You try to get people to use it as quickly as possible. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
How many sentences was that? Huh? How many 3 sentences.
3. Woo! Very good. Thank you, Minivan. You can sit down. So thank you. Non-technical audience. All right, so first is within problem solving, we can use storytelling. The second is within collaboration. Tonight, the Dutch national team is going to collaborate to take on France. Yes! All right, match is starting in a few hours, so let's go. So in collaboration, let's look at another tool that we may use. We may use visual aids. So it could be as simple as showing a picture like this. So rather than explaining the story map, we can actually show a picture. It does not always have to be an image. I was working with a team. A good friend of mine had come up with, he was an aerospace engineer, and had come up with a technology that would detect if there was a fire on the plane. It would detect the fire and extinguish it very quickly. That's important technology to have. And he said, Amber, the business team, they don't understand the chemistry behind it. They don't understand the math, everything behind this. I said, okay. We talked about this. What he decided to do was to take the business team outside, and he lit a fire and showed how the technology would be put into use. Now, I am not suggesting a demo that includes arson. What I am suggesting is a demo that you could use, right? So it could be as simple as having someone experience, visualize what that is, right? So a way to explain technical jargon is to have them experience or physically see what it is that you're talking about, okay? And then the third is to give a presentation. Whenever we're giving a presentation, understanding your audience is critical, and typically you will have more time to prepare and research for this. Okay, so as a general rule, I'm going to look at my organizational structure. If I'm in the middle, if I am communicating up, this is your general rule, if I'm communicating up, then I will summarize. Okay, they're getting information from a lot, so we're going to make sure, generally, you're going to have about 10 minutes. Okay, so I want to make sure that I've summarized that information, made it clear, this is the information important to them. If I'm communicating laterally or down, it's important that I expand on this information. Why? Because these actions will more than likely impact their day-to-day, okay? So they're gonna be the ones responsible for implementing it, okay? So I may have the same topic. Depending on my audience, I may choose to expand or summarize as well. The greatest mistake in communication is the assumption that it has taken place. And so we want to make sure to follow up, and that's where that conclusion comes into place. The question, do you understand, right? Or what can I clarify here, right? What questions do you have for me? So we want to make sure that we have been clear. Now, I want to very quickly address some other communication, because not all of our communication is verbal. In written communication, we have additional tools that we can use, right? So I can simplify my communication and use attachments. What does that mean? That means I don't necessarily have to say go to training to learn what CI/CD is. I can attach a 2-minute video, right? I can attach a job. I can attach a quick aid. Hey, if you want more information, this is what it is, right? We can use this to help educate, to help inform, to help build that understanding, and it doesn't have to be a full explanation. I don't always have to come up with the analogies. Some of the best analogies I have stolen like the best thief ever, right? This is a great video. Go here. Here, we've already talked about learning designs today. Again, we're a learning company, so I love what we've discussed today. We have over 60 different methods of learning that we can use, okay? So it doesn't always have to be a full 4-hour course. It can be as simple as a quick article. We have Slack channels. Hey, you want to learn more about this? We have a group that's already discussing this. Okay. Technical jargon in reports. We find that this can be very efficient if we are doing similar to what is already being done in legal documents. So in legal documents, you'll see the jargon, the technical name, and then the longer explanation. This is what we mean in this context of what this word is. And then, again, jargon is meant to quicken communication. We may use that word several other times. We can always go back to the top and refer to what that word means. Okay, so here we have clear communication here, and then we have quicker communication, more efficient communication moving forward. So we find within reports this is it's already widely in use in legal documents. We find it growing within technical reports as well. We talked about how complexity can confuse clarity. The more that we clarify these types of jargon, the more effective we can be. Now, why, some of you might be thinking, well, Amber, this would be a lot easier if I could just work with my technical team. We have an opportunity to gain insight, to gain perspectives from other departments, from other industries, from other disciplines. And it's from this that we're able to create a more rich environment, a more rich product, a more rich service. If we believe that we can do things all on our own, we're not dreaming big enough. If you want to do something bigger than yourself, then you have to include more people than yourself. We talk about learning new languages, as in linguistics. Here, we're accommodating and we're learning new languages within different disciplines, different departments. Now, I know that I am the last speaker of today. Thank you all for your engagement. Sometimes whenever I leave a conference like this, where we've had, haven't we had amazing speakers all throughout? It's been incredible speaking to several of you. And I think of all of these ideas and all of these action steps, and it can be a little overwhelming. And I'm reminded of whenever I actually used to work for Paris Saint-Germain, PSG. Sorry if you're a different football fan. I used to work for Paris Saint-Germain for their academy in India. I was the only American, I was the only female, the only blonde academy football coach in Bangalore, India. And this was one of my youngest teams that I coached. I had a young lad who was 6 years old, and he was very excited for his first day of football. On his first day, he came running out onto the pitch, and he began yelling, "Pass, pass, pass!" And I noticed that he was yelling pass even whenever the other team had the ball. And he was yelling pass whenever he was miles away from the action. And he was yelling pass even whenever he had the ball. So then he was running with the ball going, "Pass, pass, pass." And so I said, "Why are you yelling pass?" And he looked up at me and he said, "Miss Amber, ma'am, I do not know what it means. I only know it is a football word." You know, we laugh, but sometimes I hear organizations and I hear words like leadership, communication, collaboration, we got this, because we know these are good words. They can lead to big goals. But if we're in the wrong position, if we're miles away from the action, or even if we have the ball and we don't know in which direction we're going, then saying these words, they're not only ineffective, they're actually detrimental to our overall communication within the team. Eventually, the team is going to tune you out the same way that they tuned out my friend. We say that we value communication and then we don't communicate. They're going to tune you out. But if we first take the time to ask questions, to get to know our audience, to look into our communication toolbox and pull out the tools to better connect, to relate, to build that understanding, and to have clear action moving forward, then we'll be in a position to yell pass, to receive the ball, to move forward, and to score really big goals. I want to thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you.